All right, welcome to day 2 of our online learning. Before we start, a huge thanks to everybody who has watched the video from yesterday about similes. I appreciate all your feedback, all of your comments, constructive criticism, things like that. I have taken on board quite a few of your comments, including the shirt. Some of you suggested I wear the avocado shirt for today, so that's what I did. I did go looking for the sushi socks as someone had recommended, but I couldn't find them because it was very dark in my house in the morning. I didn't want to wake anyone up. So I had to find the only thing I could find, which ends up being bacon and egg socks. That's all I've got for today. I'll look around and try and figure out something different for tomorrow. But remember, if at the end of the video you want to tell me what you think and then also tell me what shirt I should wear tomorrow, we'll try that out for tomorrow. All right, so what are we getting to today? Yesterday's one we did on similes. Now, similes and metaphors are very similar. Today's lesson is on metaphors. They're quite similar in some ways. They're both parts of figure of speech, which a figure of speech is basically a way of doing something where it's not literal, you shouldn't take it seriously, but it's comparing two things to get a better idea in your head, to get your point across better and to create a sense of imagery in that audience person's head. So, figure of speech, metaphors, similes, oxymorons, we're going to get to all of those things. But let's focus on metaphors today. Yesterday we said similes were when you compare two things. Now metaphors, a metaphor compares two things. So far exactly the same, but a metaphor doesn't use the words like or as. It actually directly links those two things together. So instead of saying that you eat like a pig, we say you are a pig. Okay, you're directly linking those two things. Sometimes they can have similar meanings when you're changing from similes to metaphors. Other times they kind of change the meaning. What you find quite often is metaphors are a little bit more harsh and get your point across a little bit more because they're directly relating to those two things. Not saying they're a bit like it, they're saying they are that thing. We'll see as we go along. Let's go through some examples before we start. The first one, she's an angel. She's an angel and she's like an angel. Actually, the she's an angel actually probably gets your point across a bit more and actually really makes that person seem better. She's an angel. We don't literally, see that thing is not literal. We don't literally mean she's an angel and she's like got those, but we say the qualities of her mean that we say she's an angel. So it kind of is trying to emphasize. Sometimes it feels a little bit like you're exaggerating, but it does get your point across. He has a heart of stone. That's such a strong way. These figures of speech are such better say he was really mean, really, really mean. That doesn't really create anything in your head and it doesn't really sound that literary way of writing. But he has a heart of stone really gets your point across. And not he has a heart like stone or as stone. We're directly saying his heart and stone, same thing. He's a monster. Okay, maybe your little brother was running around the house like, he's such a monster. He is a monster. We're not saying he's like a monster, we're saying he is a monster. So we're directly relating those two things together. We're giving his qualities, he's pretty much exactly the same thing. Not like it, he is that thing. The last one, he's an encyclopedia. Maybe you know someone and they just know the definition of all these different words. He's so smart. We're trying to exaggerate, we're trying to use a non-literal comparison. We just say he is an encyclopedia. He's a walking, you quite often hear that. He's a walking encyclopedia, okay? These are metaphors. They're directly relating two things together, but we don't use the words like or as. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a few examples of similes and we're going to show you what they look like as a metaphor. So we're going to change them across. So let's say the first one. His heart is like gold. Okay. So his heart is like gold. We change that to he has a heart of gold. You're directly relating those two things. The second one, he eats like a pig. I think we went through this one at the top and we said like he eats like a pig. We just say he is a pig. It's probably a little bit harsher than eats like a pig to just he is a pig, but these direct comparisons in metaphors sometimes can get your point across a little bit stronger. That doesn't mean we always use them because that has a different meaning to just, it relates to more things. If you're saying he is a pig, it kind of relates to other things in their life rather than just eating as well. You are like a rock. It's not really a compliment that you're like a rock. I don't know if that just means you just sit there doing nothing all day, but if you are a rock, quite often you'll hear people say that as like a really supportive person who's always there for you. You're a rock, you're my rock. Whereas you're like a rock is actually quite a probably horrible thing to say to someone. You do nothing all day, you're like a rock. Whereas you are a rock is saying that you're that sort of person who's strong, dependable, always there. Your eyes are like sunshine. That's quite nice. But if you just say, you are my sunshine, you might hear that quite often. you are my sunshine, which basically means you're my reason for getting up in the morning. You're that sort of person who makes me shine. These literary things we're using, the figures of speech, these metaphors, a really strong way of writing to try to get us out of just telling people exactly those normal ways we speak. We're trying to use things to express how we feel using comparisons like metaphors and like similes. So these things are really useful as we go along. And I'm going to put a worksheet attached to this, hopefully, that would have a whole bunch of different things, and try to add in your own metaphors as you go. Now, your metaphor can be, as long as I can understand what you're trying to say. If you say, instead of he's a pig, you say he is a, I don't know, an ant. I don't really know that comparison. I don't know what you're trying to say. So make sure that when you are using a metaphor, that you're getting your point across best by what you actually are comparing those two things. Those two things need to create a picture in my mind exactly of what you mean. Because if they're very obscure, you're like a cupboard. I don't actually know what that's supposed to mean and what you're trying to get across by that. So make sure when you're comparing those two things that the thing that you're trying to evoke in the audience is actually coming through what you're comparing it to. So these are metaphors. This is what we're up to now. Hopefully you're going to start to get more comfortable using them in your writing, because I can promise you that when I read stuff with these sort of, I stand up and I start to really concentrate. So thanks for watching. And make sure you comment below. Thanks.